Pat Fallon. Congressman, great to see you. Thanks very much for coming. I want to ask first about the Smirnov arrest and the claim by Democrats that it destroys any case there is against either President Biden or his son Hunter or any collusion between the two on business. But this guy who was arrested, very strange. He was an FBI source who they loved and spoke very highly of and paid a lot of money to for about 12 years until he started talking bad about President Biden. Now, what he said about Biden and a bribery may be false, and maybe they have a case against him, but it wasn't until he spoke bad about Biden that they said he was a bad source. What do you make of that?
Well, David, you're exactly right. They said he was one of the most reliable sources they had for over a decade, and they paid him hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then, his case will be adjudicated, and we'll see whether or not he was lying or he was telling the truth. We don't know. But for the Democrats to say that this investigation to end because he may have lied is ridiculous, in so much as picture if you have a table held up by 50 legs. This was one of those legs. They simply don't want to address the other 49, which we had evidence. We were 6 months deep into this before we even knew about the existence of the FD 1023. And the Biden still need to explain how they got $30 million of foreign money that filtered and funneled into their pockets, and why Hunter Biden was, on the board of Burisma when he was never even in the energy sector his entire life, et cetera, et cetera.
Congressman, every time he's due on the Hill or there's something happening surrounding him, we've seen some antics, right? First, he gave that speech outside, used it as sort of a press opportunity for himself. Then he went to his own hearing to be able to sit there and watch, and he stormed out as it was in progress because he didn't like what he was hearing. Are you expecting anything like that? Or do you expect him to actually come tomorrow to cooperate and to answer questions?
Jackie, another great query. I think that he will show up. I think that he's going to say the Fifth Amendment quite a bit. He's going to remind us that there's an amendment between the Fourth and the Sixth. And but I do think he'll show up. And we've had so many of his ham-fisted PR stunts. I mean, this guy is really something else. And now he's trying to twist the narrative and say, I had a bad a decade when I was on drugs, but that's behind me now. But you know what? You're supposed to atone. And there is millions of back taxes that he has not paid that are beyond in the statute of limitations. He hasn't shown the moral character to do anything about that. So I think this is simply an act to try to curry favor with voters come November for his dad.
Another final question on that. Has either Hunter or James Biden ever answered the question of why they were paid millions of dollars by companies related to China, related to Ukraine, by the mayor of Moscow's wife? I mean, they were paid for something. People just don't throw away millions of dollars. What were they paid for?
They can't answer what services they provided these clients. Like you just said, David, Yelena Baturina gave $3.5 million to Hunter Biden's companies. And ironically, she has not been sanctioned by the Biden administration. That's pretty interesting. Vadim Pozharskyi and Mykola Zlochevsky, who were running Burisma, gave Hunter Biden $1 million a year. That's a fact that no one's disputing. The Democrats don't want to talk about that. And then his father, who in his portfolio for the Obama administration, had Ukraine underneath that. And what did he do? He got Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor, fired, who was investigating Hunter Biden's boss. So it's clear to me that they were selling influence and they were peddling access. And and who was Hunter Biden? Was his role in this? He was the bag man.
Right. And there's also the check with the loan repayment to the president. Nobody really knows what loan we were talking about. But quick, while we have you, last thought, for the first time, a majority of Americans are now supporting some sort of a border wall. We've got a new poll from Monmouth University showing 53% of Americans now back a wall. That's up from 44% just 8 years ago. David?
And Jackie, 80% of Americans. I'm sorry, David.
No, I just wanted to top it off. The top issue, of course, now for voters is the immigration issue, topping even the economy. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick had some harsh words for the president earlier today. Listen.
What the hell did the president think was going to happen when you let 10 million people, criminals, potential terrorists, rapists, murderers, gang members cross the border? I can't even express how the pain that we feel for every American that's lost, because they would be alive today. They'd be alive today, Sandra. if not for Biden's policies. He can shut this border down. I don't know how he looks in the mirror, and he's coming to Brownsville on Thursday, like, thank you for showing up now after all these people have died. He doesn't care. This is all about the politics of the future.
And Congressman, if he wanted to close the border, all he has to do is follow what Texas has been doing at their own expense, closing the border. And now the migrants, most of the migrants are going over to Arizona and California now. We know how to close the border. Texas has done it on its own. So what's the big deal?
David, we can keep the border open and secure it. Joe Biden doesn't want to do that because he's catering to his far left base. I mean, just in Texas alone in the last 11 years, the Department of Public Safety came up with some figures that were just startling. We've had 500,000 criminal aliens arrested in 11 years, and we've had 187,000 convictions. Think about that. That's just Texas. What Joe Biden has done is made every state a border state. You don't know who these 7-8 million people are that have crossed the border illegally. And David, what if only 1 or 2% are bad hombres, are folks that are going to hurt other people? That is a colossal number. That's into the tens of thousands of people that we're just letting in and not even vetting them. So our greatest calling as elected officials is to keep Americans safe, because if you're not safe, then you're not free. Right. And Joe Biden has abdicated his responsibility. Yeah. It's a gross dereliction of duty.
Yeah. Congressman Pat Fallon, great to have you on the program tonight. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much. I love that salute. I appreciate it. You know, it's